Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Christmas Town, I'll be your narrating snowman, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, he's Ellis, the red-headed podcaster, my co-host, John Paul Ellis. How's it going, buddy?
David. I'm doing well. Merry Christmas, and
Merry
how are you?
Christmas, doing grand. I heard an additional holiday giggle in the background there. What's going on your end of things?
You did. We do. We have an additional holiday giggle that is joining us.
Okay.
Longtime friend and guest of the show, Laura Barber, is back to join us. Laura, how are you doing?
Sean, thank you for asking. I am fantastic.
You guys are
Dave,
adorable.
We are
always
way
a
too
treat.
cordial.
You guys are both adorable right now. The Christmas spirits. That is spirits.
Christmas greetings
not
to
just
you
spirits.
and yours, Dave.
Christmas greetings back at you. We are imbibing some Christmas spirits this particular episode as well, so it should be a good one.
True.
Should be warm and jovial. We have wrapped up our Star Wars cartoons the last week, so now we are getting into the holiday spirit. We're going to be moving into some Christmas specials, and kicking off tonight's episode, we're actually going to be going back to a Rankin-Bass classic, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You guys pretty much know, you think you might know everything there is to know about this one, but we're going to have Sean walk you through the history of this one. Anyway, so I'm going to turn it right over to Sean here.
Hold on 1 second, Dave.
We will hold on 1 second. You just edit this out.
Yep, because can't find the email now for some reason.
What has happened?
Got it.
Yeah, you guys never sent me this email.
It
by
literally
the
sent
way.
like 5 minutes ago, so.
You did get it.
Well, some of us prepare in advance.
Fair enough.
I read the Wikipedia article on my own, though, so I think I've got it
You should
covered.
be all set, yeah.
Thanks, Dave. So the history, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a Christmas television special produced in stop-motion animation by Rankin-Bass Productions and currently distributed by DreamWorks Classic. It first aired Sunday, December 6th, 1964 on the NBC television network in the United States and was sponsored by General Electric under the umbrella title of the General Electric Fantasy Hour. The special was based on the Johnny Marks song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which was itself based on the 1939 poem Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, written by Marks' brother-in-law, Robert L. May. Since 1972, the special has aired on CBS, with the network unveiling a high-definition, digitally remastered version with special reindeer after dark cuts. And in 2005...
I don't think that part was accurate.
That was not correct.
My nose isn't all that glows, Clarice.
Oh,
Clarice.
As with A Charlie Brown Christmas and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Rudolph no longer airs just once annually, but several times during the Christmas and holiday season on CBS. Unlike other specials that also air on several cable channels, including ABC Family, Rudolph only airs on CBS. So, way to lock that down, CBS.
Yeah, good job.
It has been telecast every year since 1964, making it the longest-running Christmas television special in history. 2014 marked its 50th anniversary of the television special, and a series of postage stamps, which that's how I celebrate stuff. I usually call up USPS and I'm like, can I get a stamp? And they're like, done. So 2014 had a series of Rudolph postage stamps by the United States Postal Service that came out and were issued on November 6th of 2014. So
Fantastic.
if you're getting mail, look for that Rudolph stamp.
Yeah.
Because somebody might love you out there and want to be
We've
celebrating.
thrown a bunch of those stamps in the air, so hopefully some of you listeners out there got it.
The only people who send Christmas cards anymore are aunts and grandparents.
A
people
rapidly
who just
dwindling
had babies.
population, unfortunately.
And people who just had babies.
People who just had babies.
'Cause they have a baby to put in a photo now.
Yeah.
But you
No,
know who
that's
watches
accurate.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Frickin' everybody. To the point that I probably don't really even need to tell you what this is about, because it's just the origin story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I feel like we can just kind of jump right into this one, except we do have one caveat. Sean, how many times would you say you've seen this special? Estimate.
Probably a dozen.
Only a dozen?
Probably 12. Probably 12 to 20 times.
12 to 20. Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
For me, I was just assuming like probably once a year since birth. So we'll call it 32. Even if I don't remember some early ones. Now, here's the interesting point. So, Laura, how many times have you seen this, including the time we watched it for tonight's podcast?
Once.
Hold on. Could you say that again for listeners out there? I'm not sure they heard you. Might have been some static on the line.
Before I watched it for this podcast, I had never seen this movie. And I am an American-born citizen.
She's holding up her birth certificate to the camera right now. So
yes,
if you're watching on Twitch,
long form,
you've got her entire life history. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone or met anyone who hasn't seen this. Any particular reason why you kind of missed this one, or just never sought it out?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One, I do have to say, I'm not unaware of it. I was not unaware of its existence or of some of the characters, kind of like the Hermie the elf. I'd seen images of that, and the abominable snowman or Bumble.
Peep at that Bumble.
Love that Bumble.
You know, I don't know. I think it took. I was probably about 12 years old when I realized that other families had movies they watched every holiday season, and my family just did not.
You guys, did you not watch like any movies?
Movie?
Well, we watched movies, but there wasn't like a tradition that we had of watching these movies together. We also lived out in the country, like up in the mountains for a lot of my childhood. And sometimes we just, because we were in the mountain time zone, like the when shows were broadcast, was actually not very convenient.
I got it.
So somehow I escaped this juggernaut. But I watched this today with my husband and a good friend, all of whom are about the same age as me, and they have seen it probably as many times as the two of you.
Right.
So I'm the odd person out.
No, this is great though. This was a total surprise to me, but I think it's a really cool
fresh eyes.
Yeah, it's a really cool perspective.
I'm very pleased that this is the first time that you watched it. I know it kind of felt like we were putting you on the spot, and we definitely are. And in addition, it's great because I'm curious to kind of hear, as an adult watching it for the first time, because I don't know about you, Dave, but I have very distinct memories of watching this growing up as a kid. I had Christmas ornaments of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Did you ever have a Bumble? Did you have a Bumble ornament?
I did not have a Bumble ornament.
We have a Bumble ornament that I'm very proud of. Yeah.
There was a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Hallmark Christmas ornament, and it was it was Rudolph the reindeer, and it was very fragile. And my mom and my dad brought me to a Hallmark store, and I kid you not, every time we got one of them, they would give it to me, or they would I would get the box, and we'd get to the car, and we'd open it up, and it was broken on the inside. Just because of how fragile of an ornament it was. And so we had to go back into the store, and we're like, we just purchased this and it's broken. So like, all right, cool. This happened 4 times. I was definitely responsible for breaking it one time.
Hold on. Is this the big confession now? Is this the first time this is on public record?
Yeah, this is the first time.
This is why Santa skipped your house that year.
I'm fine with that.
So Macy's is going to send you a bill for like $265 or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But in today's dollars,
so you owe them like $1,000.
17, yes. Dave went for the big number.
That's right.
Yeah, Dave went high, Laura went low. I'm going to go with the average in between, so I'm fine with that. But yeah, it was crazy. I remember watching this a lot, and as well as some of the other Rankin-Bass specials that they had that were on during that time. There was something very nostalgic about watching that stop motion animation for me that brought up my childhood that I loved so much. And I remember seeing that in Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Right.
There was another one called A Year Without Santa, Jack Frost. I in the same way that you knew that this existed, I was the same way sort of about Little Drummer Boy.
Right.
I'm 99% positive that I've watched a majority of Little Drummer Boy, but if you asked me, could you give me a specific scene, my content would be as much as, it was a guy with the little drum kit. I don't know what the big deal is. Yeah, exactly.
I like that he had a drum kit. Like he was just sitting on stage, just like a full set of like a bass and snares.
Phil Collins style.
Just playing. Just doing fills in the middle of the Christmas carols.
This is for you, Jesus.
Let me get a countdown, Jesus.
Just like spinning the sticks.
I want to watch that one.
I'd watch the hell
Yeah,
out
we're
of
gonna
that.
produce
That sounds
that.
amazing.
We're
Yeah.
producing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer After Dark, and we're gonna produce the little. I don't know what's your name of that one, Sean. What's your Little Drummer Boy remake?
Little Drummer Boy, :
Good.
Tokyo Drift.
Got it. Perfect. Nailed it.
I've broken Laura.
I think we lost Laura.
I broke Laura.
She's done.
Yes.
Oh man, I love that you thought about it so hard for like
You really
3
did.
seconds, and then you're like Tokyo Drift.
I thought he was just gonna go with like the little drum kit boy or just something real lame, but that's why Sean's the improv guy, and I'm just I just
Oof.
chatter on.
Oh,
So
man.
okay, so now that we've got the ground set of who's watched this how many times and the different perspectives we have coming into it, now's the time of the show where we normally talk about the theme song. However, since this is an animated special that's been on the air for over 50 years, and it's actually interesting that the song came first and then the show came afterwards. So basically, if you know the carol Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you pretty much know the theme for this particular episode. It is a musical special, so there are a lot of little like mini songs and snippets and stuff that happen throughout it, but the whole thing is predicated upon what happens in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And honestly, the fact that they spun an entire like hour-long stop-motion animated cartoon from it just goes to the marketing power that was behind this thing. Because they turned this song, this poem, into a holiday juggernaut. I mean, they're still making a shit ton of money off it. There's actually a couple of podcasts out there, I think, through either Stuff You Missed in History Class or Stuff You Should Know, about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and how it all kind of got started, and the fact that it was a guy who just worked for the card company at the time. He came up with it, and then it was basically the company's property from there on out. So I don't think he saw more than like his commission for the original thing, but they turned it into this juggernaut that's still rolling today. So.
That's kind of a sad story.
It is. But there it is, the story of Christmas.
You know, it's interesting that it was originally sponsored by GE. Because, I always sort of pictured Rudolph's nose as just sort of glowing with a spirit from within. But in this movie, it's actually a red light bulb.
Yeah, it's like a replaceable bulb that you can buy at the local hardware store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just cap it up. Cap it up with a little black, dull rubber cap. You can buy them in a kit.
Yeah.
So, Sean, as far as this particular song, how well do you think it works as a theme song? The fact that it's very like, it's just straight exposition of like, hey, there's this reindeer, and then these things happen to him, and now we're going to tell you that whole story in an hour-long cartoon. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it works very well. I want to say, I don't know. I feel like this might be something where I'm going to exclude some people in this, but I think that this is such a classic Christmas song that everybody has heard this at some point. It doesn't matter religion, location. I feel like this is one of those universal things that everybody is aware of. And it's interesting because you hear the song and everybody relates to it. You know that it's something from your childhood. You know that it's something that you enjoyed and that you may have been brought up on,
right.
And that sort of initiates maybe that Christmas spirit in you working into the season.
Yeah.
Which admittedly, as adults, gets more and more challenging every year.
Yeah, but this song is definitely more the sort of on the childish ends of things. Like, it's not, it's a Christmas carol, but it's definitely more of like a kid's kind of song.
Right. I totally agree with you, Dave. Yeah. Because this is the song that when you play it, kids go wild. Among all the Christmas songs, they don't go crazy for Silent Night.
Yeah. Good King Wenceslas.
Yeah. Good King Wenceslas looked down. But with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, there are all these things that you shout.
Yeah, the little round,
right.
like the back and forth.
Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
You literally picked the one part of the song that no one shouts back. Yeah.
As they shouted out with glee.
Yippee! Yippee!
Rudolph
I was building into it, Dave.
Red-Nosed Reindeer.
You'll go down in history.
Like George Washington.
I've heard like a light bulb.
Not there.
Which makes more sense with the GE stuff.
No, it's like a light bulb earlier.
Oh.
Is it?
Yeah. You would even say it glows like a light bulb.
Like a light bulb.
There we go. This is why I start at the beginning of the song, ladies and gentlemen. But Sean likes to build up to it. I also like to not get sued by the by CBS and Rankin-Bass, so we may or may not cut that out.
One thing I did enjoy in this film, and I think that would be fun if I had watched this as a child. So fill me in on your experience. Every so often there's a line of dialogue that's dropped that is just straight up a lyric from the song, where it's like, you won't be allowed to play in any reindeer games.
In the reindeer games with Ben Affleck. Yep.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, they do though. They basically
Ben Affleck just swaggers on to the stop motion.
That's going to be in the remake, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something kind of while we're on the idea of the song and the theme song?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I watched this the other night with a friend of the show, Melanie Harker, and she has a very special version of this movie, one that comes with a rather soulful rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as sung by Destiny's Child.
Interesting.
And it comes with a music video portion where there is stop motion animation of Destiny's Child.
So it's the same film. They've just cut in. That's the power of Beyonce.
It's the power of Beyonce. It's a 3.5 minute rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer where all three members of Destiny's Child are in stop motion animation form, and they are singing about Rudolph in this very soulful, deep, passionate way. And they are cutting in moments where we have the elves at elf practice, where they're on the xylophone and they're using certain musical instruments.
This sounds amazing.
Are cut in, and then randomly Beyonce is walking out a door with a snowboard. Just the rest of the song is her and the rest of Destiny's Child snowboarding down a mountain singing, and it's like it is the point where it's she'll do something, she's like she'll sing like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and then the tag at the end will be like, I love you, boy. And you're just like, what?
So what you're saying is Beyonce really captured the essence and the spirit of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
It's also something that helps me realize that as somebody who's a performer and will continually put stuff out myself all the time to see whether or not it tests well with people, you're not going to knock it out of the park 100% of the time.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
I'm confident.
It can't all be gold.
It can't all be gold.
Bumble, can you handle this?
Oh, no.
Cornelius,
I want to hear that
can you
whole
handle
album,
this?
please.
Santa, can you handle this?
That was the closeout.
I don't think you can handle this.
I don't think you're ready for this bumble. I don't think you're ready for this bumble.
My body's too bumblicious for you, baby.
Fantastic.
Yes.
You nailed it. Laura brought it home. That's actually the outro version of the end credits of that particular rendition. So well done. Well done. No, I think it's funny though that they stretch this song, which is, like we said, it's a kid's song, and it's so simplistic that kids can know it, remember it, ad lib, add stuff to it. And then at some point they had to stretch this thing out into a 60-minute cartoon. So they just had to add things like, well, we should probably have elves and Santa, and
should probably get a flying lion.
Should probably have a flying creep
lumber
lion.
Prospector
with random dogs on a sled.
Hold on. At what point is a marketing guy sitting in a boardroom and he's like, what's hot with kids right now? Prospectors.
Mustaches, beards,
ginger beard, dog sleds.
It was totally a kind of a Madison Avenue moment where they just had 3 martinis at lunch.
Oh yeah,
they're swirling their afternoon
they
whiskey.
got business drunk.
Oh, business drunk for sure.
Rankin-Bass holiday business drunk. That's a hell of a combination.
I love flannel. Flannel.
Put it in.
Put it in.
Put it in there.
Guys, I'm sorry I'm late. I just had to go to the dentist. I had an emergency root
put
canal.
that in too.
Oh.
Put that in. Put that in.
Put it in.
Cosgrove,
Kids love the
I love
dentist.
Yeah, right. Cosgrove.
And the secretaries are taking shorthand, just like, well, this will never fly.
She's the true hero behind Christmas because she took all of those garbage drunk notes and assembled them into a 60-minute special. And again, she was probably somebody who saw no additional cash flow beyond just her regular compensation for being...
Right. And they were like, we're going to name Donner's wife after you. we're going to name her after you.
Yep.
And then she watches it, and they didn't give Donner, the reindeer's wife, a name.
No ladies get names except for one.
Mhm.
We get one lady name
Yeah,
this
one
entire
lady
time.
name. Hey, just
So many
remember
men.
that the important thing is to get the women back to Christmas Town.
Mhm.
Just remember
God.
that. No matter what happens, keep in mind the women folk will be saved. It'll be all right.
This movie was so sexist.
Oh man, just terrible in so many ways.
sexist.
Okay, so
There's
this is a great point to I think talk about how just like general impressions, because you look at this and you think like, okay, kids cartoon, holiday cartoon, family, special, should be really good for the whole family,
Mhm.
regardless of the fact that it's 50 years old and probably a little outdated. Laura, what were your general impressions after watching this whole thing?
So I will say that the music and sort of the general look of the movie kind of gave me some warm fuzzies, because it reminds me of some, other movies of that era, like The Parent Trap.
Yeah.
That kind of like multi, men's and women's choral sort of, songs where it's about two people falling in love. But the movie itself is so sexist. You have all of these male figures. You've got Rudolph's dad. You have Santa. You have Moonracer, the Lion King on the island of misfit toys.
Right.
You have Cornelius. Am I missing a patriarch?
I mean, kind of
Presumably Bumble was a male.
well,
Bumble.
the leader
Well,
of the elves too. He was kind of a dick to
Yeah,
his little
I
buddy.
mean, just all these men in power who are complete dicks and completely obsessed with maintaining the status quo.
And don't want to deviate. Anytime something deviates from their preconceived notion
Right.
of what they find acceptable, you're a misfit.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
are immediately a misfit.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
I think it's very
nonconformist.
telling.
Yeah.
I think it's very telling that there's never a moment where there's an explanation of why it's so bad that Rudolph is born with a light up nose,
Right.
and why it's so bad that Hermie wants to be a dentist as opposed to making toys.
Yeah. It's just
and
sort of,
I guess you could see that as like a shortcoming of the narrative, and I'm not totally shying away from that judgment.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's also, it just goes to show that this sort of the narrative force of having these disapproving kind of male figures in power just saying, this is not what we expected, this is not the status quo,
Right.
and it's unacceptable, is enough to hang the whole storyline on. You don't even have to say, well, a light up nose is, I don't even know. The utility of it is so obvious.
From the get-go.
From the get-go. The utility of having an elf who's a dentist, because
all they eat is
they don't have
candy.
they don't have a dentist. They don't have a dentist.
No, and
Presumably their healthcare is non-existent.
Yes,
non-existent.
presumably.
It's slave
So
labor.
you've got Santa,
basically.
who's this sort of like King Leopold, just with his elf slaves and his reindeer, all of whom are sort of tasked with policing each other, all with the goal of pleasing Santa. And the women, or the female figures in this movie, you've got the female elves who dance and sing and are not seen to actually make anything.
And all
in
wear
the workshop.
pink and high heels.
They all
and
wear
blonde
pink
hair.
and they all have blonde hair,
Yep.
which is important because Hermie is the only boy elf who has blonde hair,
Yeah.
and he's got kind of a pouty lip. You've got Rudolph's mom, who is unnamed.
Mhm.
Right.
You
But
have
blamed for pretty much everything.
you have the suicidal doll
Yep.
on the island of misfit toys, and you have
So-
Clarice, the shockingly mature female doe.
My girlfriend said
Female
that
deer.
Rudolph sounds like he's like a 6-year-old, and Clarice sounds like she was about 40, 45.
Oh yeah. Can you do the Rudolph voice, John?
Yeah, John.
What do you mean?
Hi, Rudolph. I'm Clarice. I've been watching you in the reindeer games.
Well, gosh. Thanks.
I think you're really swell.
Nose lights up. Embarrassment.
Rudolph's nose
Yeah.
just grew like 3 times as the size. It's a little,
Ugh.
it's a little odd, unexpected.
Puberty. But it becomes creepy, and then when she sings, I mean, it's really. Why Holly Jolly Christmas became the breakout song of this movie because all the other songs are garbage.
Yeah.
She doesn't.
one
Laura
she
doesn't like silver
sings.
and gold. Doesn't like silver and gold.
Silver and gold.
All right, so
I mean, if you want to
yeah.
Dave, what were your thoughts? Because silver, I know you brought up silver and gold. Silver and gold to me seemed like during a holiday where the essential theme and component should be spending time with family. It feels like they injected the most materialistic song that they could ram in there. Did you have any thoughts on this? It seemed crazy to me now as an adult watching it.
I just think it was for Burl Ives to get a chance to sing rather than just being a narrating snowman wandering around, telling the story of what's going on in Christmas Town. I think that's it. I mean, honestly, a lot of these songs were thankfully short. They were never to the point where it was just like, good God, just get to commercial or whatever.
Well,
they were all short enough for me. I think they were fine, just for kids.
Did Clarissa's song make any sense
No,
to
zero
either
sense.
of you?
No.
Zero sense.
Zero
She
sense.
comes
It
out of
seems
nowhere.
to just come out of out of another movie.
Yep.
It's got kind of a Bambi ripoff.
Came out of like a
feel.
show tune or something, but she just
Yeah.
is like
Right.
unbidden to break into song at this point. Like Rudolph, hold on, I have a note here, and we'll get to it in a
She
second.
meets him. She meets him.
Yeah.
They don't talk about his hopes and dreams
Nope.
at all. He succeeds in flying because
He gets a little bit of sugar.
he gets a little bit of sugar
Oh,
from
yeah.
Clarice.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even want to delve into what's going on physiologically
Oh, we know.
with Rudolph.
Reindeer boners.
Because he's like,
Mhm.
what does she say? What does he say? She thinks I'm cute. She thinks I'm cute. And he's flying. Cute. And then his little nose
Little nose cone.
his little
cone.
nose merkin. It's a merkin.
It's a straight up merkin. It's a reindeer merkin.
His little nose merkin pops off, and everybody gets these googly eyes. Like, what?
What a great animation
That is my
was.
favorite. That is one of my favorite reactions.
That's so good.
So good.
His little
The
buddy
googly eyes.
Fireball, who you never see again.
and then he runs off, and Clarice is there to provide what female characters are permitted to do in this movie,
Yeah.
which is to provide comfort.
Yeah,
She doesn't
some
know him
solace.
from like anybody, and she's like, I think you're really special, Rudolph. And then it's
But
the
my
song, "There's
Ugh.
There's always tomorrow for dreams to come true." Can you imagine? Put yourself in Rudolph's shoes. You've been shamed from birth for having a
Right.
light up nose.
Right.
Your father is basically like a sports dad, like a little league dad, who's like, no son of mine is gonna be bad at reindeer games. You show up at reindeer games, you make a friend who's immediately like, let's impress those girls.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh fuck.
Your friend is immediately saying to you, "Let's peacock for these ladies.
See, now I
Let's
wrote down
peacock
a
as
quote
much
here.
as possible."
I wrote down a quote that neither of you are going to like, but I had to share it. It's bros before does.
Ah,
Bros
I
before
like-
does. Had to drop that in there.
It's
There
so
was
good.
something also about the use of the word dough.
It was really
that
creeping
felt
me out,
kinda
man. I didn't
dirty.
like it.
Where he's like,
Yeah.
oh, we have to show up
Show
for
for
those
these
doughs.
Oh, look, it's a bunch of
Does.
does.
I know. Doe.
Does.
Hashtag does.
Oh man. But so you're shamed.
Right.
Your secret is revealed. The thing you've been afraid of your whole life. You run off into the forest.
And I want to preface this in saying your entire life at this point consists of anywhere from 6 to 8 months, presumably.
I don't even know if it's that long, is it?
It could be 3 to 8
Yeah,
months
yeah.
would be a time frame.
Yes.
So you've been shamed from birth.
Mm-hmm.
Within moments of you being born.
Right.
Your father is like, "Ooh, no, don't do that."
No son of mine.
Your dad's boss then walks in
Yep.
moments after your
Unbidden.
birth,
Yep.
unbidden.
He's like, I heard something was happening.
I heard murderous screams from a woman.
Santa's a creeper.
From an
Yeah.
unnamed
Just like,
woman. Yeah.
Seems like unnamed woman created this new fawn.
Santa's always interested in what the does are doing.
He's got to inspect them. He's got to inspect
So
the
he-
young ones.
Oh, it's
So-
time for the dough inspection.
Oh, God.
So you're down. Jesus, I'm so creeped out. So Rudolph is born,
Mhm.
immediately shamed by his father.
Yes.
Immediately shamed by his father's boss, who he has zero frame of reference from.
Oh, it's and then his father smears mud on his nose.
Yep, that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. To get rid of this. Cut forward to this undiscernible amount of time, let's say 3 or 4 months,
Sure.
where they're back outside.
Mm-hmm.
They're beginning to participate in these reindeer games. You have been shamed this entire time. Your dad puts a little cap on top of your nose so that you sound like this when you talk.
Mm-hmm.
You are introduced to your first friend, and your first friend is, yo, let's try to smash.
Yo, what's up? My name's Fireball.
Yeah,
And
my name's Fireball.
I want to point out too that only boy reindeers get to play the reindeer games.
That's
Right.
The girl reindeer
Damn does.
are off on the side. Them does are off on the side. They've got the way that you can distinguish them by gender is that the female reindeer have bigger eyes,
Yep. Eyelashes.
batty eyelashes, and
And in the case of
and like-
Clarice,
and like
a
mini-
little red
a
bow.
a little
bow
Minnie
tie.
Mouse
Yeah.
bow. Do we have to pay $1 to Disney every time we say Minnie Mouse?
Probably.
Just gonna send him a vine of me burning $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this podcast is losing money at this point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So before we get too far ahead with what happens to Rudolph after that, I don't want to get out of Christmas Town just yet. I want to back up to the beginning here. So just
Back it up, Dave.
so we've got pretty much everything that happens to Rudolph. So now we'll talk about some of these kind of side characters. This thing actually opens up with sort of a weird newsreel footage, live action shot of like this crazy blizzard snowstorm that's impacting like pretty much all of America at this point. And that is supposed to be our lead in to like, oh, there's this terrible storm that's coming. I wonder what the hell the point of this is. And this is when we're introduced to the stop motion animated snowman, who is voiced by Burl Ives. So it's just this old snowman in a vest with an umbrella for whatever reason, who's just skating around in the snow.
With an umbrella.
Yeah, with an umbrella in the middle of
Pull up
the
an
winter.
ice block.
Oh,
No, if he says, pull up an ice box and lend me an ear.
ugh, this snowman.
What did Burl Ives have on Rankin-Bass that would force them to create this narrative framing device solely for him?
And presumably because of the time that this came out, like a bunch of dirty photos. The internet was not around, just a bunch,
No, just
like
in a box.
manila folder, like full
Just a
of
banker's box full
dirty,
of photos.
full of just dirty, like explicit.
J. Edgar
photos.
Hoover was involved.
Yeah, just kind of a catch-all at that point.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just
So
a
that's-
bunch of them
yeah.
wearing dresses.
And he's so folksy and avuncular.
I kind of
Yeah.
like
Do you like
that,
that
though.
word, Dave?
I did.
Avuncular.
It makes me think of an uncle for some reason. Or a carbuncle.
It's because
which is
the
very
word
different.
uncle and avuncular have the same root.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey.
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 No, I love
Hey.
the snowman though. He's kind of
Sean's like,
pointless,
I'm
but I
a
love
computer scientist. What?
Sean's looking it up right now. It's all
Derp.
good.
I'm googling it.
Avuncular. AVUNCU.
You know, I'll do it after the show.
LAR.
So while
I
we're
wanna
going to
live-
dictionary.com to check that out, I'm going to talk about Skinny Santa because a Skinny Santa is not something you expect to see in this cartoon. And correct me if I'm
Eat,
wrong, but
Papa.
Skinny Santa is skinny for like 95% of this show. Isn't that right?
Dave, were you creeped out by the relationship that Santa had with Mrs. Claus?
Yeah, to the point. Right before he's ready to get on the sleigh, when she's like cramming this gelatinous gray-colored misshapen food into his mouth, that she was basically like she had like a feeding fetish. Like,
I
she just
thought the
wanted
same
to just
thing.
shove food into his mouth until he burst.
Mama and Papa
Yeah,
have a little feeder fetish.
there's something going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I was the moment that Mrs. Claus does the Papa
Mm-hmm.
eat, and he goes, Mama, no, I'm not hungry. And they pan out at that point, and you see the shot of Santa sitting at the table with this gray.
Yes.
Just look like
purple
Scrapple.
lump. I just went, well, yeah, I wouldn't be hungry too if my food looked like shit.
Like actual
Yeah.
shit.
Absolutely. Like, there's no way that I would be interested in eating any food whatsoever.
And that's something that
And
I
then-
never
and-
picked up on when I was a kid, though. Like, I never looked at his food when I was a kid. I was just like, oh,
Because-
he's Skinny Santa.
But Dave,
Just
like,
stressed
how,
out.
But like, how challenging would it have been to? They are animating textured miniature reindeer.
There's a piece of
Yeah.
stationary
like,
food.
just a single
That's it. It
piece,
doesn't
like
have
a
to
single
move.
just
steak.
paint it like a carrot.
there.
Like steak and an egg and maybe a slice of bacon.
Or like a sandwich.
And then you'd be like,
Something.
oh man, he must be in bad shape if he's not eating that.
Exactly.
Instead, you're
Not
like,
just a lump of gray meat. Just gray paste.
Papa.
Mama, no!
Oh, there's some weird
It
stuff
just-
going on between
It
them.
was so... And
We're going to just close this camera.
It's just...
Papa.
Mama! It was the moment...
Creepy.
There felt to me in that moment...
Eat it.
Yeah, but like a weird body shaming.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Santa was taking care of himself. Santa looks svelte
Santa's looking
as
pretty good.
fuck.
He's not filling out those suspenders, but he's looking
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
And you know, he's really got an endurance event that he's preparing for.
Basically, yeah.
Isn't that... I mean...
Food equals love for a lot of people. And it seems that for Mrs. Claus, food equals love. And so when Santa rejects the food,
he's
rejecting her,
Mhm.
her and the love that she wants to give him.
But to be fair, Santa's kind of
There's
got a lot on
hurt.
his
There's a lot of hurt.
a lot on his plate, so to speak, at this point, because he's not only inspecting the new reindeer that are coming up. I'm getting a lot of head shakes from that little pun there. He's not only inspecting
I like
new,
this
the little video
visual.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Santa's a super dick this entire show.
Oh,
I mean, the fact that he
huge dick.
shames Rudolph, he goes into his elves workshop, who have been not only putting together all the toys for him, but have
Mhm.
also been working on a song to sing for him. So it's all the elves together. They're singing a song. They go through the whole thing. They've got their little song and dance. It actually sounds pretty good. He's just sitting there bored as hell. Mama likes it, but
Mhm.
Claus is sitting there. He's just like, needs work. I gotta go. And that's it. That's all you
Yeah.
get from him. So he's like the
So let me-
worst boss ever.
So let me ask both of you the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel that Santa wants this job, that he wanted this responsibility of working as the head of the North Pole?
I'm gonna say no, straight up. Or he's tired
No,
of it. He may have back in the day, but I think by this point he's tired of it.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good question, Sean, because it opens up the possibility that Santa has himself some thwarted dreams and desires, and that he has been fitting himself into a particular template.
Right.
And that would perhaps explain that, you know, the shaming of misfits in this like very structured hierarchy and the North Pole would be symptomatic of the leader being somebody who is himself suppressing
Right.
his own weirdness. You know, that something called the return of the repressed always emerges somewhere. That's literary theory.
No, I mean it's great. I mean it's
You can push it down, you can hide it, you can try to forget about it, but those desires and will emerge somewhere else.
right. And he,
This is a structural analysis.
I mean,
of
just that you
Rudolph
get it.
the Red-Nosed
No, that's great.
Reindeer.
Because you got to have a
No,
reason for it, because otherwise it just
it's
comes out of left
important.
field. Yeah.
But
But
it comes through so
Mhm.
clearly in this animated, like in the moment where he's sitting there and they're doing the elf practice and they're doing this song that is about him, really to celebrate him and the work that he does.
I just see self-hatred.
And he had his to imagine this. He's on a throne. He's on he's sitting on a large throne with Mrs. Claus next to him, and he just has his hand, like in body language wise, it was disturbing because he just has his hand like on the side of his head, where he has one hand on his temple, like as if you're to indicate that like this is causing a migraine.
Right.
This is causing me
And it's
pain.
a beautifully performed song.
Yeah, there was no problem.
I mean, it's trite, but
You're right, sure, but
needs
to
work.
the point. To the point, yeah. Right.
I love how dismissive he was, though. It's just like they put on this 5-minute long song, and he's just like, needs work. I got to go. And he takes off.
yeah. And I also loved the contrast though, because I get the, you know, you get the sense that Mrs. Claus has just decided to let the bullshit roll off her back and just sort of pretend that nothing is wrong.
I think all she's interested in is just getting him fat. Fat in time for Christmas. That's all I see her.
Maybe that's all she sees as her
right
where
as
she
her
has
role.
any power over anything
over
is
the
to
food.
fatten him up, and when he refuses that, it's just this like this conflict.
It could be that moment where somebody recognizes, understands, and accepts exactly how they are plugged into the machine. And the North Pole, for all intents and purposes, it is a machine in terms of churning out toys, the structure, the hierarchy that they have.
Oh, yeah.
And she serves a single role and a single purpose. And she has, and it seems in the instance that we're talking about Santa having those other hopes and dreams beyond, and sort of getting to that point where he's been worn down, and the Christmas cheer that even he has is slightly eroded. Mrs. Claus contrasts him almost to say, this is still not boring for me. I know when I'm here to serve this role and this task. This is my gear turns this other gear, and that's all I do. And thinking about it that way, and now thinking about the number of times that I've watched this show, I am now super depressed. Like, it's really sad. It's very sad.
Well, the fact that like
you've got the factory, and you've got the logistics. So you've got the elves producing the factory, and you've got the reindeer who are the sort of like logistics.
Yeah, and the fact that Santa Claus is supposed to be this kind of like childhood figure that's supposed to bring joy and supposed to bring happiness and is supposed to represent that like all year round. And then you see him like with a migraine and like looking emaciated and just yelling at everyone and talking down to people. It's like, it's surprisingly bleak and depressing.
He seems miserable.
Yeah, he's very miserable.
He seems miserable.
But even to the point that it's not just himself, like he's treating everybody around him like shit too, which is not what you expect from Santa. I don't really know what's going on there. There are other characters who get treated like shit, not specifically by Santa, but by their superiors. Of course, I'm talking about Hermie the elf. In this particular case, we mentioned him briefly. He is a very different looking elf who is also a nonconformist, and rather than build toys alongside his fellow elves who are all kind of part of this machine, like Laura mentioned, he wants to be a dentist. And he has his own little song about wanting to be a dentist and being a misfit and all those kinds of things. And he decides that he's had enough. He's actually going to run away from home. And at this point in the episode, Rudolph has pretty much had enough too. He's tired of everybody, adults, his parents, Santa, everybody except Clarice, looking down on him. So they both decide to kind of run away, and they end up running away together. Now, before we leave Christmas Town, I do want to mention a couple of things. Donner's voice and Comet's voice. Any particular reason that adult reindeer sound like gangsters from the 20s?
Oh my god!
I wasn't sure if you guys picked up on that.
All of the boy reindeer, male reindeer,
boy reindeer,
whatever. When spoiler alert, Rudolph returns to Christmas Town, they're like, "Hey, what are you up to? You came back, huh? Well, you better watch your back.
You better watch out there, neon nose."
Yeah, neon nose.
Every adult male reindeer sounds like a gangster from Jersey in the 20s for no apparent reason.
Like Polly Walnuts.
I also have to wonder about reindeer like biology. Do reindeers happen to live in caves? Does anybody know?
No, I don't even.
This is like a recurring theme in this show for some reason, that they're just like, get to your cave.
Well, you know what?
Clarice, get to your cave.
Yes!
I want to say that the only reason that they ended up using that convention that I could possibly come up with is that you are a family watching this with children, and the cave provides some type of interior structure to show a family or a home life. Because otherwise, that just means that unnamed Donner wife is just dropping a baby in the middle of this. Also, I want to mention the fact that it's not Donner. The original name is Donder,
which means thunder.
Yes, exactly. They're all German names.
Right.
And so in this, they converted it from Donder to Donner, which makes zero fucking sense. There was no reason that they had to add that in.
You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen,
Comet and Cupid and Donder, you dum-dum.
I don't know if I've ever said Donder.
It's definitely Donder.
I don't know if I've ever said Donder. I believe you. I would like to point out very early in this particular episode, since this is a stop motion animation, you can actually watch Donner or Donder's antlers just kind of curl in on themselves and almost completely collapse very early on because like the clay had just kind of like softened to the point nobody was paying attention to it. So his own antlers almost impale him in the eyes in the first like 5 minutes of this thing. It's a pretty great little spoof. Yeah.
I feel like the drooping antlers, Dave, are emblematic of what I was talking about earlier about masculinity in crisis in Christmastown.
So you're saying that was definitely planned, 100%.
I'm saying that not everything that means something was planned. So
got it. Read between the lines with Laura Barber.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's get the hell out of Christmastown. What do you say?
Let's leave. Let's ditch this.
You ready to take a floating iceberg out of Christmastown?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man.
So it's not too long before we come across two of the other kind of supporting characters in this narrative. One is this kind of looming specter of death that just kind of like shows up at random times throughout the narrative. I'm a big fan of this guy. Laura, how do you feel about the abominable snowman?
He's not very frightening.
Yeah, he's really not. He's very felty.
No.
He's kind of like a little Muppet.
He's fluffy.
Yeah.
He has a bit of a blankness in his eyes,
Yeah.
more so than the other stop motion characters. I don't think he ever blinks. Maybe that's why.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's kind of adorable.
Yeah, he really is.
You
He's like a
know?
big old teddy
the
bear.
adorable snowman.
Oh, except when he
What a
clubs
sweet-
Rudolph in the head with an icicle. But other than that, he's pretty good.
That was,
That's rough.
He
but-
gets his comeuppance.
I forgive him.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Forgiven.
Give him a buy
I've often
on that
clubbed reindeer in the head with an icicle. Okay, so if we're not too afraid of the Bumble here, what about Yukon Cornelius? What's this character all about? John, you resemble this character, so give me your thoughts.
Jesus. Not everybody that has a red beard resembles Yukon
Sean looks
Cornelius.
exactly like Yukon Cornelius.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
Yeah, he's literally wearing a knit cap,
Guys,
has a backpack on, and just threw a
got
pickaxe in the
blue
air.
bubble jacket.
So he's got a pistol slung in his
I
belt.
love that. I wrote down that he was pro gun
With
rights.
pistol.
Yeah,
He was what?
he's pro gun rights. He never uses it, but he's pro gun rights. He's got a carry permit.
I loved
The prevalence
Yukon
of guns in this movie, by the way.
is-
So, yeah.
The
we
jelly
would never
shooting
see
water
that these
pistol
days.
creeped me out more than Yukon
Oh my
Cornelius'
God, the
gun.
water pistol with legs.
Yeah.
Nobody wants me.
And a face.
I shoot jam. Jelly.
Was it jelly?
Oh yeah, it was jelly.
Yeah, it's probably jelly.
jelly.
Yeah.
I loved the Yukon Cornelius character. He was, as soon as he came onto the screen, I mimicked the throwing of a pickaxe
As you
up
should.
in the air and then grabbing it out of the ground and the weird tongue noise that they used for the sound of, I'm assuming it must not have been a sound effect. It had to have been a Foley that like somebody had created. They were like, "Hey, Tim, can you come close to the mic and just
slobber all
lick,
over it.
and just slobber
Yeah.
and lick your tongue a bunch?" And he's like, does that sound right?" They're like, "Yeah, Tim, that's perfect."
For folks who couldn't
uh,
see that through
print.
video, holy Christ, was that disturbing? It sounds terrible, but to see
it's
it
a little
is
disturbing to
just
watch.
Awful.
He sort of has this odd oral fixation with his pickaxe,
He's looking
where
for
he-
silver and or gold.
where he's making this odd cunnilingus noise
Yeah, well,
against.
Is that what cunnilingus sounds like? in
Not
your
if you're doing it
experience?
right.
Not if you're doing it right. Thank you, Dave.
anytime.
So he makes this noise, and then immediately is just like, nope, and then continues about his way. And but I want to say I loved his character because there was seemingly zero reason for him to ever be in this show whatsoever.
There's
I
no
don't know.
reason for
If
him to
you-
exist. Yeah.
If you want to, this whole show is really about people finding. The main theme is about finding your place. Is about finding your personal place with your friends, your family, and understanding potentially what that role is and how it compares and contrasts with maybe your personal dreams and goals. And Yukon Cornelius, and so when somebody doesn't fall into that box of ideas, you're labeled a misfit, as we've already mentioned. If we're talking about misfits, Yukon Cornelius is the biggest misfit in this show and gives not a single fuck, which
Zero.
makes him amazing. He's gotten to that point where he understands this is what I'm doing. I'm a prospector, and I have a pistol and I don't use it. I also have a knife. I'm not stabbing anybody.
We got these mismatched dog sled team.
Oh my god, the poodle that keeps
like
popping
a
up.
So
schnauzer.
cute. Dogs are so
Dachshund.
adorable.
And I think you're absolutely right, Sean. And there's something that he says that I think illustrates this. When they're they're chased by the Bumble
Right.
to the edge of the sea. And he gets out his pickaxe and he very, I think smartly, kind of hacks around the edges and they float off on this ice floe because the Bumble can't swim.
Right.
And for a moment, the Bumble jumps in, and I'm like, "Does the Bumble drown?" Because remember, I've never seen this
Right,
before.
right,
Yeah,
So I'm
and,
like,
and
oh,
also
maybe
at
this
this
is where
point,
it ends.
this is where we learn that Yukon is like a Bumble anatomy expert. So he apparently has
Yeah.
been living, alongside the Bumble for quite some time. So he is an expert on what the Bumble may or may not do. And in this case, Laura, what did the Bumble? What was he able to do or not do, as the case may be?
What was the Bumble unable to do?
Swim.
Yep.
All right.
Bumble sink.
Bumble sink.
Bumbles.
Throw the
We
pickaxe in
later
there.
learned that Bumbles bounce.
That's right.
Right. Bumbles do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Or at least just those two things.
So they're off on the ice floe. The fog comes in,
Right.
and Yukon Cornelius says, "This fog is thick as peanut butter." And I think Rudolph says, "I think you mean pea soup." And Yukon Cornelius just says, "You eat what you like, I eat what I like."
Yep.
And that is a world away from what we saw in Christmas Town,
That's
which
right.
is you eat what I like.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
That's
And
great.
you like it.
Also a great mantra. Yeah. Good for Hermie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her.
Was
Oh,
it
thank
Hermie?
you.
Was it Hermie who said pea soup?
I think it was Hermie who said pea soup. I can't imagine Rudolph the reindeer
Mhm.
had too much experience with pea soup or peanut butter, but
Fair
I'm gonna
enough.
go Hermie.
Fair enough. Rudolph's not that bright.
he's really not.
First
He's,
knows.
early in the show, he really struck me
Mm.
as he might have some issues. But luckily he doesn't talk too much the rest of the episode.
Well, you want to think, there's probably a very small reindeer population, and so the idea or the potential for inbreeding.
Please tell me we're getting
He's
into
like the
genetics
Gerhard
of
Habsburg
reindeer.
of.
Yep. Just, he is like the European royalty family. Like,
Last of the line of Donners.
right.
That explains the
Oh,
red
yeah,
nose, though. Yeah, recessive trait.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm just thinking of that 30 Rock episode now.
And actually, it would be great if they were like, Red-Nosed, that's like the hemophilia
Exactly.
of the reindeer.
Right.
Because then there would be a reason to fear it.
Right.
Like, you can't be on Santa's team because if we have a rough landing, you might bleed
Just going
to
to bleed
death.
out upon landing. That's
Right.
going to terrify
Yeah.
the kids.
There's never any explanation.
No, just because he's different. But speaking
Mhm.
of different, now we get to a different island where everybody's different. And actually, pretty much the only way that you can be a citizen of this particular place is if you are different enough to be chosen by a flying monkey lion creature that decides that you are different enough to be part of the island of misfit toys. This was kind of weird. I remember watching this as a kid and just being like, what the fuck? This is so just out of nowhere. It made zero sense to me. Yeah.
Let me ask you both this question.
Mm.
So they go through and we have the spotted elephant.
Right.
We have the Jack in the Box.
Charlie in the box.
Charlie! Nobody wants a Charlie in the box.
we have what was it, an airplane or a boat that sinks.
Yep, you got a train with square wheels on the caboose.
Square wheels.
Chain with square wheels. And then we have this red-headed doll.
Yeah.
And there
scary.
seemingly is nothing wrong with the red-headed doll. Do you guys have any idea?
You said it.
Because
You already said it.
What?
You already said it.
The what?
A red-headed doll.
Oh, shut up.
I got nothing else, man. I don't know what else to tell you.
What does she even say? There's something she says. She's like suicidal.
She is.
Yeah.
She's really depressed, which is strange.
She's really depressed. I mean, maybe she can't smile like one of those pull the string dolls where she's like, I love you. I love you.
Well, again, I was watching this, and like the only thing that I could think is that this doll was unwanted and a misfit because it represented somebody in history that is a terrible human being. And so the moment she came on screen, and I realized like there's nothing wrong with her. She's just a doll that seems like a little bit upset about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, what's her deal? I began thinking of who could potentially be like a terrible historical figure, and like there's only really one name that came to mind, and I'm embarrassed to say it, Ava Braun. I was just like, yeah, she's a doll of Ava Braun, and nobody wants her.
Yeah.
Like it seemed stupid, but I had no idea for all of these toys that had something that was. Let me put it to you this way: was this something where and this will be this will be a question along a feminist line? Was this something that they felt that all of the toys at this point that they had put in there were for boys or boys and girls, and they needed one that was just for girls? And that's why they were like, we'll just put a doll in, and we'll just make her a normal doll, and we'll put nothing notable or discerning. We'll just make her crazy. Which I feel, again, along your line of just like the sexism, you know, in this, it was something where they were just like, we'll just put a female character in here. Well, what's wrong with her? We'll just make her crazy. You know, how women are just crazy.
They go into hysterics.
Oh, Christ.
You know how they are.
I'm going to go dark and go with the Velveteen Rabbit theory and say that she was just stricken with scarlet fever, and rather than burn her with the other piles of toys in the kids' room, they just took her to the island of misfit toys.
Well, here's another idea I'm going to throw out there. So dolls are a vehicle for girls traditionally to sort of enact like the roles that you're supposed to play as a woman. So a mother, you know, with a baby doll, it serves as a way to imagine what you will be like when you're older. It's like the power of Barbie. And so a doll that is like depressed, that doesn't want to do anything, that doesn't even want to fulfill its role, like as a doll, is just a really bad role model for what they want, what girls are expected to be, which is this like docile, cooperative, cheerful, smiling, you know, supportive figure. Like we see all the other, you know, Mrs. Donner and Clarice and Mrs. Claus, which there's a lot of fucked up shit going on in these relationships, as we've discussed, but none of them have totally like broken out of this like supporting role.
Right.
But this doll has, and it's rejected as a result.
That's really good too. Damn. Thank you.
Yeah, I got nothing. I'm going scarlet fever.
I'm going with gingers are fucked up.
Just going redheaded doll. So at this point, like everybody kind of makes their acquaintances, and all the misfits kind of get to know each other. Everybody's super sad. But at this point, Rudolph feels like, well, if you guys are all misfits, I'm a misfit. Hermie over here's a misfit. You know, according to Sean, Yukon's a misfit too. So we're all just going to hang out on this island together. They're like, well, you can do that, but you should probably go check with our leader, this flying lion guy. And they do. And he's just like sitting in a throne room by himself, who is apparently employing...
Everybody is shivering outside.
Yeah, everybody's waiting
and
outside.
They go into
he's totally fine.
The castle is empty.
Yeah, except for one little spotted elephant in like a bellhop hat.
With like a fez.
I loved that elephant. I also loved that when they're having the conversation outside and they pose the question, well, we're misfits, maybe we can stay here. Right. And the immediate response is, well, you have to talk to Moonracer, and he's also holding court right now. Oh. And you're like, oh, well, so convenient for me. Like, what? Like, right now? Great.
And they go to the empty throne room. There's
nobody
there. So you get the feeling Moonracer just sits on his throne for like 2 hours a day. He's like, it's receiving hours.
Well, job done.
He should be grateful they showed up, but instead, no. His response is, "Only toys can stay here."
Yeah. Right.
Very messed up.
And then Cornelius turns to Rudolph and says, "Even among misfits, you're a misfit."
Yeah,
that was kind of messed up too, man.
Which is like
you guys are supposed to be buds.
That's like another tier of depressing.
If this movie were French, Rudolph would just go kill himself at this
point. But that's exactly what I was thinking. Rudolph would have tried to kill himself, but then would have failed. So then Yukon would have looked at him and said, like, even in trying to kill yourself, you're a failure. It's like that level of just like, man, even at failing at life, you fail to kill yourself. You fail at life and you fail at death. So you are the lowest of the low, my friend. But Moonracer does say, like, well, even though you guys aren't toys, if you promise to talk to Santa and get him to come pick up these misfit toys and deliver them to good girls and boys, like, you guys can at least stay the night. So that's what they decide to do. And then the night turns into, at this point, they kind of like jump ahead in time because they're all kind of like shacked up together in this cabin. And Yukon and Hermie, they want to go out.
Under some pink satin blankets.
After dark.
After dark.
So Yukon and Hermie want to go out and they just kind of want to keep exploring and find another place that they can all live. But Rudolph knows that if they just travel together, that Bumble's going to follow his nose. and because Rudolph's nose is kind of like this beacon in the winter wonderland out there, Bumble's always going to find them. So he's going to put his friends in danger. So Rudolph decides to go off on his own. So at this point, he just abandons them. We don't see what happens to him for the next like 8 months, whatever it is. He just goes off on his own. He has kind of this like Lion King transformation where he's, a little fawn one day and then he's like a grown ass reindeer the next day.
Which
let me just strike a note of appreciation for the reveal. Rudolph's all grown up now.
All grown up.
So it's like you see him wandering through the snow. It's he strikes off on his own. He exists as best he could. It's so like Huck Finn.
Yeah,
like,
it's not like he was thriving out there
it's like
either.
Henry David Thoreau. Like I went out into the woods
and became a man.
But then spring comes, and the shot that we get.
This is what I want to talk about.
There's a bubbling brook because the water is melted, and you just see the pert derriere of a young haunch of a pert young reindeer. And it is drawn with a sort of curvaceous verve. And then Rudolph stops drinking from the stream and lifts his head. Oh, and he has a nice rack on him of antlers.
Yeah.
Because Rudolph has gone through puberty.
Yeah.
And it's
still got that nose though.
He's still got that nose.
Still got that nose.
We paused it at that point and just laughed for a good minute.
Yeah. It is an unbelievable that Dave, I think you nailed it with the Lion King transformation.
Just to give you a visual, if you haven't seen this, that's 100% what this is. Yeah.
But Laura, you could not have described that scene better. If you're not familiar, bubbling brook, reindeer butt.
Yep.
Pause in time. Manhood revealed.
It's not a lady reindeer.
There's no bows on that head.
Yeah. But this is the moment where he goes back into Christmas Town.
Yeah, and keep in mind real quick too that the whole time that he's been out in the wilderness by himself, he has been pursued by the Bumble. So he has been trying to stay one step ahead of him and stay away from him. So the Bumble is still out there antagonizing every step of the way.
And Dave, do you remember the moment where they do say Rudolph did make some friends while he was out there, but they didn't stay long? And do you remember the scene that they painted?
No, I remember that Yukon and Hermie go after they go out to find Rudolph, but that's not for a little bit. But no, I don't remember the scene.
So they have this moment, Dave, where Rudolph is playing with these two young polar bears, and these two young cubs, and they look joyful. Yeah. And Rudolph has to have been thinking to himself, "Dear God, another person that I can have a conversation with who's not trying to eat me
yet."
And I'm so lonely and isolated in this barren wasteland of snow. And then it cuts over to a mother polar bear, and she is gesturing in the way that is non-verbally saying, "Get the hell away from my offspring." You leave those children alone.
We've heard about your kind.
You bring nothing but pain and weird misfitness and the Bumble.
Get back to your cave.
You got that misfit reek all over you.
Just bring that cave back. Go back to that cave.
Go back to the cave.
Okay, so let's bring home this Lion King metaphor for a second. When Simba returned, right, everybody kind of welcomed him. They were just like, "Oh, Simba's returned. He's going to save us from Scar and these fucking hyenas." So, same thing for Rudolph, right? Like, everybody had made fun of him when he was a kid, but as soon as they saw him again, they just kind of welcomed him with open hooves. No,
Nope.
they did.
Not even close.
No.
No, they straight pick up right where they left off with all kinds of like terrible names for him.
This is where we said that the New Jersey mafia characters.
It's like the
He
sharks
walked into
and
the Jersey
Jets.
Shore, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, get out of here, Neon
Get outta
Nose.
here,
What are you
Neon
doing
Nose."
here?
Oh, look
thought
who
we-
it
we
is.
thought you left.
Yeah, we thought we got
look
rid of
who it
you.
is.
Use.
Yeah. And he goes back to his cave.
Right.
again.
Yeah, his home cave.
It's empty.
Yeah.
Because totally
Santa rolls in.
Santa rolls in. Rudolph asks
Santa rolls in
the
wearing
pertinent
like
question.
a weird like fall time attire. He was in like hunting jacket, Elmer Fudd, weird looking.
Santa has casual days.
He does
like
have
the rest of us,
casual
Dave.
Santa.
He's in Kris Kringle chill
Yeah,
mode.
casual Santa wear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Continue.
So he asks the question, "Where are my parents?"
Mm-hmm.
And Santa responds, "Devastating news. They've been out looking for you
For like
for
12 months. Yeah.
And Clarice, your one-time supporting character who were impressed even got a name to begin
Right.
with,
Mhm.
who kissed you once, is also out looking, presumably going through the same body changes that you went
Yeah.
through, but with somebody else's
All
parents.
while with Rudolph's parents. Yeah.
Right.
So fucking weird.
So
Awkward.
this is the moment where Rudolph, I want to say this is the defining moment that sort of showed to me that Rudolph had in fact matured and become a man. And this is, I know that we talked about the idea, and again to the quote, Laura, that you had about from Yukon Cornelius saying, like, you know, you eat what you eat and you whatever you like, and I'll eat and I'll like whatever I want, and it doesn't matter. This is a moment where, for me, it was Rudolph saying it doesn't matter because he has been pursued nonstop by the abominable snowman, by this Bumble. And what does he do when he gets this devastating news? He immediately sets out for the Bumble's cave.
It's a good thing he does. It's a good thing he does.
Yeah, right.
Because his timing
there.
could not have been better.
Impeccable.
He's got like a
At that
12-month
moment.
window, you know, that anything could have happened, but it's a real good thing that he shows up.
How fucked up would it have been if he had showed up and there were just bones
corpses.
of his parents and Clark and like
And just like a
and just a
bow.
bow on
Oh,
top of
no.
a skull?
Oh,
I don't know why that's so funny.
that's really fucked up. So keep in mind, so while he's going to the Bumble Cave to rescue his parents and his love of his life, there's a really bad snowstorm hitting back home too.
Right.
So we're in the, Santa's gearing up to go out and deliver his toys. He's still skinny, but there's a really bad snowstorm that's hitting back home too. So Rudolph is now going to take on the Bumble. So you think, okay, this is the hero's moment. He's going to take on the Bumble. He's going to win. Everything's going to be fine. If you remember earlier in the episode when I mentioned the abominable snowman clubbing a reindeer over the head with an icicle, that's pretty much what happens at this point. So Rudolph gets knocked the fuck out, and he's kind of left at the mercy of the Bumble. But thankfully, like Sean mentioned, our friends Yukon and Hermie have been on his trail. And in another serendipitous moment, they just happen to show up at the exact same time as Rudolph gets knocked out. Do you like Yukon's plan here, guys? Do you think it's a sound plan? Kind of walk us through this was like a Timon and Pumbaa kind of plan, to continue the Lion King reference. It was, man. They did the pig thing.
I think it took advantage of the respective strengths of Hermie and Yukon Cornelius, who I like to imagine have fallen in love in the interim.
I mean, they've been out in the wintry wilderness for many a month, many a dark, cold, lonely night.
Oh, yeah. Like a bear and his twink just crossing the tundra.
They might as well have just called these two characters Bear and Twink, to be honest with you. It would have explained so much more.
Yukon Bear and Twink Nelius.
Bear Nelius.
Bear Nelius.
We can cut that out, right?
No, that's staying.
Absolutely not.
That's going into Rudolph After Dark. It's just fanfic that totally
I think,
happened.
Dave, to answer your question, I think the plan, like you said, it took advantage of their strengths. It made use of their strengths. It didn't take advantage of them.
So what strengths
But
specifically? They have very
I
specific
don't think
strengths.
it was a great plan.
The pickaxe.
So
just for those who, like me, have never seen this before.
Oh, God.
What happens is that Yukon Cornelius climbs up to the sort of top of the entrance to the cave. Right. And this is the Bumble's cave. And he starts to, and Hermie kind of lures the bumble.
Right.
What is he? What is
oinks.
he goes?
He
oinks like a
says,
pig.
"I'm a hot piece of ass."
I'm good.
No, that's what he did for Yukon,
Yeah.
and that's how that whole thing worked. But for the Bumble, he oinks like a pig at the cave mouth,
Yeah.
which makes just
That's
as much
right.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, did I miss a bit of the background here?
No, this was again with
No,
Yukon
it's-
sharing his expertise on Bumble physiology, where he's
Got
just
it.
like, I have never known a Bumble to turn down a tasty piece of pork in exchange for
Does-
reindeer meat.
Does he say that?
He says something to that effect. I have never
Yeah.
known a
Oh.
Bumble to turn down pork for reindeer.
All right.
It's like along
So
those
there's some
lines.
oinking, which now makes sense, sort of.
Kind of,
Mhm.
not really at all, but
The bumble kind of
Bumble's out.
bumbles out to the mouth of the cave. Yukon Cornelius pickaxes a little boulder off the edge, and it hits the bumble, and he falls down.
Right.
So if you're
gets back
if you're
up.
He
thinking at
doesn't-
this
yeah,
point,
he doesn't stop
no,
there.
if you're thinking at
He
this
get
point that
knocked- he
Hermes'
gets knocked
skills
down,
are
but he gets up
are
again.
oinking like a pig, you'd be incorrect. Hermes does put his
Never-
dentistry skills to the test here.
Oh my god,
That is
so fucked up.
that is a weird reveal.
Yeah, where he's like, I just happen to have my tooth
I just
inserts.
had these giant forceps in my back pocket the whole time.
And by cuspids,
Bicuspid.
and molars and incisors. It
I
just-
pull them all out.
Yeah.
So
And so then you've got
Yeah.
a lobotomized, toothless bumble.
yeah.
Right. You look a concussioned,
Oh yeah, he's super concussed.
Yeah.
a concussed, toothless bumble.
Like,
Who does that? He makes that great face. I'm just like the weird shaped mouth where he's trying to smile as wide as possible to
Here,
show that.
let's give Dave our best bumble.
Okay, here we go.
You're just gonna have to imagine back home. Sean's using way too much teeth, so this one's going to Laura. I've said that to Sean and Laura before, just in different situations.
Hi.
Yeah.
After dark.
After dark.
Nice.
Bumbles after dark. So yeah, the Bumble who was not super threatening to begin with is now just been completely neutralized. Like he's totally
Mhm.
fine. Yukon is basically like treating him as a pet. He's just kind of like at this point Yukon backs the Bumble out of the cave and he's basically just like
Mhm.
tickling him, which is really disturbing, but he's
Yeah.
just tickling the Bumble backwards and they both fall off the side of a cliff. So you don't
Yeah.
really see this coming as a kid. You think like everything's all wrapped up, the bad guy's been neutralized, the hero's won the day, everybody's going to go home, it's going to be awesome. No, you just watch Yukon and the neutralized Bumble just fall off a cliff. So
Mhm.
you
Right.
just give them up for dead because guys, what's the important thing? Laura,
Mhm.
what's the important thing in this scenario?
Getting the women back to Christmas
That's right.
Town.
Let's get these women back to Christmas Town. They're like, well, we just lost a good man and a Bumble. Let's get these women back to Christmas Town.
They were very sad about the loss of their friend,
Uh,
but they knew the best thing was to get the women back to Christmas Town.
that is a
Oh,
straight
God.
up line from
If
1964's Rankin-Bass.
If they had said we needed to get the vulnerable, insecure, and sometimes manic women back to Christmas Town, I would have just thrown my television out the
I
fucking
mean, they
window.
might as well have
Before
said,
they
like, we
had
need to get these
hysterics.
female characters back before they have a fit of hysteria. That's more or less what they
Mhm.
were going for.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
These women, not even Clarice and Donner's wife, just these women.
Mm-hmm.
So sad.
Even at the end of this movie, they're just like, we can still. Somebody was like, "Hey Dale, so far the script is fantastic.
Mm.
Any idea that we can get, or maybe shoehorn any more sexism in after we almost kill the main character off?"
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think we
Thanks.
could do
Yeah, just
that.
one more
Awesome,
line should be
Dale.
good, I think.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Clink.
Business lunch success. So now you would think that
Butt
Rudolph, since
pinch.
he's rescued, not only his dad, but his mom
Doink.
and the love of his life, right? You think he would be welcomed as a hero when he comes back home. No, he pretty much
You'd think
goes.
wrong.
You'd be wrong again. He pretty much goes right up to Santa's face, and Santa is all stressed out because the snowstorm has blown in. Donner is finally returned, but he's just still concerned that he's not going to be able to put his reindeer team together, and he's not going to be able to fly through this snowstorm. At this point, Rudolph's nose is just straight up in his face and just blinding him with the light.
Mm-hmm.
And Santa's like, turn that fucking thing off, Rudolph. And which surprised me for the show. And then at one point, he's like, oh, finally, after 45 minutes, it's dawned on me that perhaps I can use your superb flying skills and this incredible light you have on the front of your face to my advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So let me
Please
paraphrase
do.
that,
Yeah.
Dave. The thing that you've been shamed about
Right.
for all presumably
Since birth.
since birth now has an advantage and so now we will accept you into the fold.
And because you can do something for us and save our asses, now you are one of us because you have proven yourself useful, even in your nonconformity.
And Dave, the thing that fucks with me the most about all of this is that in the presumably hundreds of years that we've had fucking Christmas, there's never been
over 2,000 years.
I was going to say probably like 2015.
2,000 years that we've had. Yeah. In the 25, maybe I'll round it up. In the 3,000 years that we've had Christmas or some pagan holiday related to Christmas.
Just in case you're listening to this in the year 3015.
Yeah. We've never put a contingency plan in place in the advent of having fog or a bad snowstorm.
Yeah.
That's poor.
No, that's climate change.
No.
That's just evidence for climate change.
Dave, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
If your one job is to do this thing
once a year,
once a fucking year, and you are now at the point where you're just like, we have to cancel Christmas, Mama. You know, there's no way we can deliver presents. And you are hysterically upset and furious about this. Like, you are just flipping through stages of grief at this point. And somebody is finally shows up that you have shit on since their birth. I would have loved the ending to have just been Rudolph just grows a middle finger and just gives them
just straight out of his mouth.
Like,
Sean, you are gonna love.
Go back to the cave together.
Oh yeah.
Fuck all y'all.
Yeah. Dave, what were you gonna say?
Well, first of all, if I know anything about reindeer physiology, Donner already got to Clarice. But moving on, I'm gonna say that Sean, you are gonna love our user review of this show tonight. So just keep that in mind. I want to go back to a comment you mentioned real quick. You said the most disturbing thing to you was that, which you just went through. The most disturbing thing to me was Donner's response. Now, remember, Donner/Donder is Rudolph's dad, who's been shaming him since literally he fell out of his unnamed wife's womb. He says, I knew that nose would be useful. I knew it all along. And I was like, fuck you, Donner. I literally said it at the screen because I don't remember that watching it as a kid. It's really upsetting for me because at no point did any of these characters who had been shaming him his entire life or ostracizing him or making him feel like a misfit, at no point did any of them admit any wrongdoing, take any blame. They were just like, oh, now we can use you for things that we need to do, so now you're okay.
Right.
I don't apologize for the previous 18 months of your shitty life.
Dave, do you think that like after Rudolph's attempted rescue and then the rescue by Hermes and Yukon Cornelius, that the walk back to Christmas Town where Donder and Rudolph are bonding again, and he's just standing there just going, so, still got the nose, right? He's like, yeah, Dad.
So what do I do here? Well, I can't kill him.
Well, I'm going to go talk with my new wife, Clarice.
Yeah. By the way, me and Clarice.
Donder out. Boom.
That's 100% what's going to happen in Rudolph After Dark, by the way. We're going to tell the real story. We're going to blow the lid off this conspiracy. After Dark. But we're not done yet, kids. We still got...
we get Holly Jolly Christmas.
Holly Jolly Christmas.
Yes.
We've also
That's
got,
when that came in.
We've got this... Well, do you want to talk about Holly Jolly Christmas? Because is it before or after this that we get our surprise reveal of two characters you may have thought dead, but are actually totally fine?
No, they come back first.
Oh, they come back before that. Okay, because Holly Jolly wraps everything up, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point now, I think Santa is still a little skinny, but the fact that everything else is coming together, now Mama really starts cramming that shitty food in his mouth. So he's really starting to fatten up. He literally fattens up within like a day. But everybody else is working on stuff. The elves are making the toys. Rudolph's back. He's leading the team. Everything's good. Except they have a tree that doesn't quite have a tree topper on it, so it's not quite done. And the elves...
Again, shitty planning.
The elves did not have time to put a ladder together.
Every cog has a place in this machine.
Yeah, they've never had
Every cog has a place in this
That's
machine.
Right.
So who bursts through the door but Yukon Cornelius? And everybody's just kind of like, how the fuck? Like, how are you still alive? You and all your dogs. Well, he says something to the effect of like, here's... Oh, what does he say? Here's man and here's the beast. And he just has the Bumble in like on a leash, just like dragging him through the door. So
some kinky shit.
Yeah, some kinky stuff. So I think what happened was where Yukon and Hermie were previously in a relationship, I think Hermie got bumped and now it's Yukon and the Bumble. But don't
I
quote
think
me
they're
on that.
polyamorous.
You think it's all three just doing
Oh yeah.
okay, just
Oh,
swapping
yeah.
out?
There's not a lot of options on the North
No,
Pole.
that's true.
I think you
In
just
Christmas
sort of
Town.
Get what
They
you
keep it
get.
pretty locked
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Bumble comes in, and it turns out that guess what, guys? Bumbles bounce. So that's one of their other skills that keeps them from, dying when they fall off a cliff 400 feet high. One of the other unremarked skills is that they can also put a tree topper on top of your 40-foot Christmas tree. So that comes in handy.
And he again makes the same toothless grin smile. He just wants to help.
He's still concussed at this point. He has not passed concussion test. He is not fit for service. Sean, buddy, do you remember what Yukon? He's been looking for silver and gold this entire time, but do you remember what he actually strikes at this point? He throws his pickaxe.
No.
Oh, really? He throws his pickaxe in the air one more time.
Peppermint.
He strikes Peppermint Mine.
Peppermint. And then he
Oh.
changes his tune and he says, I've been looking for peppermint all
Apparently all
along.
along. I love the fact that like Hermie.
When?
Hermie's sitting next to him and he just like collapses into the snow and does this weird like snow angel. And to me, that's because so Hermie's been cleared to have a dental office and he's making appointments now with all the elves because all they eat is candy. So the fact that Yukon now has a peppermint mine, he's going to be bringing in the big bucks. Hermie is going to have a steady list of clientele because all these idiots are going to be eating nothing but peppermint and candy. So they're going to have rotten teeth.
Although we saw foreshadowing of his dental practice earlier in the film when his boss pops into the workshop and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm practicing dentistry on the dolls. And there's like doll blood on
He's
the
just
workshop
smashing
bench.
these dolls in the face with a hammer.
He's got a little hammer. He's like, dun, 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 dun.
So Hermie, we haven't talked too
I don't
much
think it's
about
going
him.
good places.
His education in dentistry is an old faded book that just reads dentistry. So who the hell
Dentistry.
knows what's in that thing?
Isn't that how dentists get
This
trained
is how
these days?
dentists are made. And the only time we've seen him use these skills is hammering dolls in the face and ripping the teeth out of a giant monster. So good luck, Christmas Town.
I need to share
Yeah, what you got?
something that
Please.
I originally I had the desire when I got into college to be a dentist.
boy.
That's
What?
the reason that I went to school.
Are you kidding?
No, was
Because of Hermie?
to become actually an orthodontist.
Oh.
And now, well, Dave, you bring up the best point. I wonder how much of that was conditioning through watching this movie.
Oh my
And a
God.
subconscious suggestion that you might want to be a dentist when you grow up. And I'm clearly not a dentist now. So
Is that clear
I
to our listeners?
Well, let me show you this book I have. Dentistry.
It's just, but you really do literally have books over on the shelf behind you that, I mean, might as well just read computers for all I know about C hashtag.
Well, I'm sure that I've been to your house and you have bookshelves that just say like English lit,
Snobby shit.
Now, to be
European crap.
To be fair, on
Poems.
Sean's point, I originally went to school to be a peppermint prospector, but that also did not work out. I'm sorry to say this.
You did spend a summer internship in the peppermint
I did.
mines. So
I
that
was slaving away in the peppermint mines of. Yeah, I almost said Uganda
I
for
went-
some reason. I don't know why Uganda came. Sorry to our Ugandan.
I went to culinary. I wanted to go to culinary school, so I really identify with Mrs. Claus.
Yeah, see? Even though you've never, seen this.
Papa.
Yeah. All right, so let's bring it home.
If I
Let's
ever,
wrap
oh
it
my
up.
God!
So,
If we ever open, we should open a restaurant called Eat Papa.
eat Papa,
Just
eat
let me
comma Papa,
mention. Eat Papa.
eat Papa. If you don't have that comma,
Dave,
it's
you
a,
were
it's a
saying.
very different restaurant. So just a heads up. It's very
This is a
important.
cannibal.
You should know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's bring it home.
Sorry,
So
Dave, go ahead.
Santa's on his sleigh. He's out delivering toys to all the good girls and boys out there. But you may have remembered that we have a plot line that has not been concluded yet. So we've still got these Island of Misfit toys out there, which apparently has turned into the Island of Hobo toys because they're all just sitting around like a makeshift campfire, just like cooking a can of beans on a stick. So what do you think? I mean, has he like changed his stripes? Is he gonna go pick these guys up? Do you think Rudolph, made good on his deal? What the hell happens here? You guys remember?
Rudolph makes good on his
Oh,
deal.
he's a good guy, Rudolph.
Mhm.
He shows up. They land. as they are about to land, the beacon of Rudolph illuminating the night sky through all the fog, the toys immediately recognize and say, "Hey, it's Rudolph."
Yeah.
They land, and then there is probably one of the more disturbing stop motion animation sequences that occurs.
Okay, real quick before we get into that, I just want to say real quick, we had some audio issues with our the video of Rudolph that we were watching, so it would kind of cut in and out. And when Charlie, the Charlie in the box, said like he noticed that Rudolph was here, it sounded like he said, "Holy fuck, it's Rudolph and Santa!" And we had no end of entertainment replaying that over and over again.
That's actually what they say.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't an audio issue. Okay.
No, it's kind of
Perfect.
perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay, Sean, what was your
What
most
I-
disturbing moment there?
So they have this moment where they land,
Mhm.
and then the sack of toys opens up, and everybody just immediately, without any questions or words, there's nothing that needs to be said. Again, we're at the point where they are just wrapping this up.
The misfit doll has just said, "I don't have any dreams left to dream."
Oh God.
Oh god.
That's the island they're landing on.
Was that Suicide
It
Doll?
was
That's
Doll.
Suicide Doll. Ginger.
Suicide Susie.
The Suicide
It
Doll.
was Suicide Susie. I just looked her up.
Mhm.
Right.
Wikipedia is amazing.
Did you just go to suicidegirls.com?
Yeah, isn't that where I'm supposed
different
to be?
site altogether. No, different site altogether,
Oh,
Dave.
sorry.
But equally fantastic.
We will also have
So-
that link up on the show notes. Yeah.
Just be careful what gets picked up on your mic.
Got it.
Dave.
So so we have this moment where all of these toys, in what seems like a split second,
Mhm.
jump like just with a fervor that we have not seen on this show, just pile in and disappear into the sack.
There's nothing better for them.
That's the end of them.
Done.
That's actually
Mhm.
Santa's
Done.
incineration bag. They all just got turned to ash.
The next time we see these toys, they are being thrown out of a sleigh in mid-air.
What are they given as a if you
Some
were to
of
throw
them,
something?
some of them get an umbrella to
yes,
hold
that's
on
what
to.
I wanted. That's
Others of them get pitched into the void, just tossed, and they're just like, "Yep, this is my fate."
They wanted to be toys.
Can't wait.
They could have just stayed on that hobo island, but no, they wanted to go find a
Mhm.
home with girls and boys.
Oh,
And then pretty
man.
much the snowman brings us home with a song. That's about it. You want to talk Holly
Yeah.
Jolly
Mhm.
Christmas at all, real quick, before we wrap it up?
I just want to say I love Holly Jolly
Okay, that's
Christmas.
great.
It's great. It's great.
Mm-hmm. It's bouncy.
It is.
You get energetic.
Mm-hmm.
What a great way to end this depressing, misogynistic special.
Yeah.
Man, this got really dark.
But let's talk about that then. What,
Rude.
Laura? Since this
Mm.
was the first time you watched it, what were your kind of closing thoughts, and would you recommend this to kids of all ages out there?
Oof.
As a representative for all kids out there,
And all women.
Yes,
Let me
please.
speak for all children and all women.
Please do.
please.
And then we'll get you home to
Christmas.
Christmas Town. It's gonna be all right.
I think it's instructive to realize that kids don't pick up on a lot of this
Right.
stuff, as you both mentioned, having watched this as children. I just don't think it's very good. Yeah, I would probably not. I mean, if I was drinking a lot of spiked eggnog at like my parents' house with nothing to do, I might watch this if it came on the television, but I wouldn't make a point of it. I have no emotional sort of connection to
Right.
it.
Okay.
And I just don't think it's very good. So
Fair enough. Sean, what about you? Since you've kind of got a different approach to this, just
Yeah.
having that
I
nostalgia.
have. I have the emotional attachment. I think the thing that was challenging is that it's been probably 5 or 10 years since I've really sat down
Right,
and watched
right.
this, and this has been obviously the first time that I've watched it critically.
Right, exactly. And not just
And
had
sort
it
of
kind of in the
underst-
background. Yeah.
Right.
mhm.
And sort of understanding some of the things that we talked about today. It is misogynistic. It is wildly depressing, and it's a little bit of. I mean, and the songs and the values that these people have and the way that they treat each other is deplorable.
Yeah, and there's no lessons learned either, which was
Right.
surprising to me. Yeah.
And at the same time, if you're a young child, if you have a young child, I can see the merit
Right.
in sharing this with them. I think if I ever have children, I would want to share watching this with them. But then I would also sit down with them and say, these are all the things that are wrong.
Right, exactly.
And
Please
really
don't model your life and want to become a dentist or a peppermint mine prospector.
and at least sit down and have that conversation to say, I know that you're 4 years old, but here are some things, and here's how you need to treat people, and women are not just comfort things to help you out through this, and you need to treat people with respect, even if they are a little bit different. And so I would recommend this because I think for me it's an iconic Christmas movie to watch, up there on par with A Christmas Story and
Grinch.
and Grinch.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something that's notable, that's worth watching, for me personally. But I think some of the lessons that we've talked about and sort of how we viewed it critically today really kind of shapes my impression of the movie going forward and how I would broker that discussion with somebody that I was watching it with.
No, that's fantastic. I agree with you 100%. I'm actually glad that we went and covered this today, and I'm really glad that Laura happened to be here, not only for her perspective, but also because she happened to be a first-time watcher of this too. So that was really cool to have that perspective. So I'm with Sean on this one. We've got another review from from a viewer out there, which I'm going to read to you now. It is titled Christmas-tacular, and it is.
And who's the author?
Is this from?
This is from IMDb.
This is,
we pulled this off IMDb. And the author is By Jesus, Buy Jesus.
What?
From Kathy's Room in Amherst. This is from back in 2002. So this is an 8 out of 10 rating. Here we go. Perhaps the best of the early Rankin-Bass productions, Rudolph and the Tale of the Island of Misfit Toys is classic, nearly flawless, with great original songs. There is little better to get into the holiday spirit. The animation is a little bizarre and perhaps even a little frightening for young kids, which may explain why they don't show it as much. Or maybe it's because it lacks flash and pizzazz and all that showy junk that passes for entertainment on TV nowadays. Give me this stuff any day. The only problem I have is the fact that they make Santa and all the other reindeer out to be such bastards. If I were Rudolph, I wouldn't let Santa use me as his tool. I'd tell him to cram it. Of course, that's just my opinion. I love these reviews so much. Cram it, Santa.
Cram it,
we're gonna,
Santa.
By Jesus, we're gonna use that in our After Dark remake. He's just gonna tell Santa to cram it.
After dark.
Cram it.
I'm gonna tell you to cram it after dark.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Well,
God.
Laura, once again, thank you for joining us for
Yes, thank
another
you.
episode Saturday Morning Cartoons. Would you?
It's totes my
Yeah,
pledge.
that's so good. Would you like to let the listeners know where they can find you on social media and what you'll be up to in the next couple of weeks?
I'm on Twitter at Lura. We cannot be Facebook friends, so
Take that,
don't even
everybody.
Try. Yeah, take that, listener. And by the time this airs, all of my improv shows in December will be done.
Oh, that's sad.
But you can find Sean and possibly me at the San Diego Improv Festival right around Valentine's Day in February
Yeah, February 13th.
13th.
We'll be performing in the evening block for the San Diego Improv
That's
Festival.
excellent. Sean, what else do you have going on?
I mean, like Laura said, we're just wrapping up the year, so we don't have any shows for January yet, but we will. We have the San Diego Improv Festival, and then beginning in March, we have WIT's Washington Improv Theater's annual Fighting Improv Smackdown tournament called Fist that kicks off. So I know this is a little bit in advance, so you can find out more information about all of these shows and all of our performances that we have at witdc.org.
And Sean,
And you
you're
can follow.
yeah, you got it.
Yep. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram for weird stuff at Sean Paul Ellis.
Weird stuff, Sean Paul Ellis. As for
Just been
me,
posting weird
you
crap.
can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me over at collider.com covering movie and TV news and also recapping such shows as Arrow, The Flash, and The Walking Dead. All those are all on mid-season hiatus right now, but they will be back in the new year, and so will I. And so will Saturday Morning Cartoons. If you'd like to find out more about us, you can do so at our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. You can find us on Twitter at MorningTunes. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Tumblr page, SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. We got a Facebook page. We have a YouTube account. You can also listen to us each and every week through iTunes and Stitcher. And you can also send us an email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Next week on Saturday Morning Cartoons, we will be continuing our holiday-themed episodes with another Rankin-Bass classic. This is one that's new to me. I don't think I've ever actually watched this.
I don't remember watching this one either.
Yeah, so it's Rankin-Bass Jack Frost. So it'll be the Jack Frost special. I don't know what to expect. If it's the same level as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, then you're in for a treat? Question mark? I don't know. I don't know how this one's going to be.
Who's your guest?
We believe we have our buddy who it's been a while since he's been on the show, but our friend Joe Gallo.
Back to
Excellent.
Tiger
Our
Shark
friend
fan.
Joe Gallo. Yeah,
It's reaching
and
way back.
Exo Squad.
And Exo Squad, correct.
Bringing him back.
So we hope to see you guys next time, and thank you for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoon.